What's up, my friends? So I have just upgraded my M.2 SSD and then encountered a little issue because it was running too hot and then throttling. I decided to install heatsinks to both of my M.2 SSDs, but the problem with my mainboard is that it has very limited room around or above the M.2 SSD. But I found a nice solution for that. It doesn't look too nice, but it's hidden, so you won't be able to see it. And it increases the airflow and the room above the M.2 slot by quite a bit. And it really helps with cooling and also with installing any rubber bands or brackets that I use to mount a heatsink to an M.2. And yeah, I just wanted to share that solution with you. Maybe you have a similar mainboard or even the same as I do, which is an NZXT N7 B550. It is known for having problems with the M.2 slots and with a very limited room. So yeah, this little DIY hack really helped me, and maybe it will help you. So yeah, let's jump in. First, we need to open the PC so we can access the M.2 slots and the M.2 shields above them. Here we have the bottom M.2 shield from the main board, and as you can see, I've already done that, and yeah, it looks pretty rough. So I decided for the top shield, which is the important one for the main M.2 SSD, to make it or to be a little more precise when working on that, so that it does not look like a caveman worked on it. And here I'm running just the benchmark before installing or doing the modification, so we can see how much it improves in the end. I'm using Crystal Disk Info to view temperature and other information about the SSD, and I'm using Crystal Disk Mark for benchmarking, checking the read and write speeds. And yeah, that's really good to get the SSD to its limit and then see how that affects the temperature.
One eternity later.
We started with around 58 degrees in idle, basically, and we've reached a top temperature of 69 degrees.
Nice.
So yeah, let's get back to making our modification and get that temperature down. Here we have the rubber bands that hold the heatsink to the SSD, and I was only able to attach the rubber bands because I removed a lot of the plastic on the backside of the SSD shield. And some heat shields, if you have one that's a little bigger than mine, you won't even be able to install that one in this with this mainboard, because the shield will just sit on top of it and bump into it basically, and not sit on the mainboard the way it should sit. And by removing the plastic, we can get a few more millimeters of space here and better airflow, and yeah, that might help out a lot and completely solve the issue for some mainboards or some heat sinks. So here I'm finding out how much room do I need for my SSD, and I'm just using a simple white colored pen to mark the plastic on the shield. So once the marking is done, I try to get the shield into some kind of fixed position so that it doesn't slip away during sawing or cutting. I cut the plastic on the first shield with a simple carpet knife, but yeah, as you saw, that wasn't that precise. So this time I'm trying to sort of saw it with a normal battery drill and some cheap Chinese miniature saw blades. And the sawing worked pretty well. Once the plastic is almost sawed through, you will feel that the saw blade is already starting to saw on the aluminum from the inside, and yeah, then you can just stop. You really need to watch out that you don't slip away with the saw and cut on the outsides of the shield, because that will cut away the color or the painting here, and then it might look pretty bad in the end. I did a very little damage to my shield here, but that's totally fine. Not able to see that once it sits on the main board. But yeah, just watch out when working on it with the saw. But in the end, my saw technique was not that brilliant. I didn't cut the plastic in all the places, so some places were still attached. So I decided to give it a little workover with a knife in the end. And once that was done, I used the hairdryer to heat up the shield, so that the glue between the aluminum and the plastic softens up a little bit. It makes it a lot easier to remove the plastic from the shield. If you don't heat it up and try to kind of pull off the plastic by force, then you might end up bending your shield. Yeah, don't do that. Can't recommend. This is the comparison between the first and the second shield. So yeah, it looks a lot cleaner, a lot better, but I still need to cut off some of the excess plastic, because the rubber bands that hold the heatsink stick out to the sides a little here. So I made some additional room for them. And yeah, I did that also just with the carpet knife. Now this is the M.2 with the heatsink already on top, but without any rubbers. So until now the heatsink was just pushed down onto the SSD by the M2 shield from the mainboard, but that's not a permanent solution in my opinion. And it also doesn't allow the heatsink to get rid of all the heat properly, because it will just spread over to the plastic, and it's not very good for getting rid of heat. So yeah, now I'm attaching the rubbers, and then we can put the SSD back in, and then we can put everything else back together. And now let's run another benchmark. I tried to get my PC to the exact same temperature as for the first benchmark, but the SSD was already running a lot cooler in idle mode, which is a pretty good sign, but it was harder to get it to the 58 degrees starting temperature. So yeah, the overall temperatures here for the second benchmark are a little lower than for the first one, but it doesn't affect our result. So I warmed up the SSD just before the second benchmark by turning off all the cooling in my PC and just running some load on it to reach almost the same temperatures as for the first benchmark. and the SSD had a starting temperature of 58 degrees. We went up to a maximum of 62 during the test, and we ended up with a pretty low temperature that was even lower than when we started. So yeah, we're hitting 55, 54 degrees here at the end of the test, and that is a very, very good result, if you ask me. So yeah, I am really, really happy with it, and it was definitely worth it. So if you have a similar issue, then maybe this video helps you out. And if it does, or if you have any ideas or suggestions, then leave a comment. If you enjoyed this or if it helped you, then consider leaving a like for me and maybe subscribing. That would really help me out to grow this channel and do more DIY hacks and all sorts of other videos. Yeah, thanks a lot for watching and see you next time.